Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Demetrius Johnson, and you're listening to MMA Latest News.com.
It's time to roll, baby.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to MMA Latest. We're here live for the UFC 2 Fight pre-show. I'm here joined by Jay and Reese. Guys, we're back to UFC Fight Island. It's a big one tonight. 2 titles on the line. Adesanya versus Costa, 2 undefeated fighters. 1-0 has got to go tonight. Reese, which way are you balancing it out this fight card?
I think it's obviously starting Fight Island with a pay-per-view, ending with a pay-per-view. It's smart from UFC, especially after such a long stint of shows at the Apex. I'm excited for this one now. As Dana White said, you can just guarantee that this is going to be fireworks. You know, Paulo Costa brings it. You know, there's a lot of criticism with his last performance against Yoel that he kind of just danced around the octagon for 25 minutes, but Costa's going to bring it. So I'm really, really excited to see this one. And even the co-main event is just banging as well. So I'm really, really, really excited.
Yeah, Jay, this one has been highly marketed and highly touted as Fight of the Year, almost guaranteed. Do you think this will...
Also can't look too deep into that as well. In the same sense of, like, you look what happened with Romero. We thought Adesanya and Romero was going to be a barn burner, and it just wasn't. You know, who you want to blame on that? It's your own opinion, I guess. But with this, I kind of agree with Reese. I do think Costa will come forward. He'll apply the pressure. It just depends on how good of a game plan Adesanya puts in place in terms of the counter striking. You know, will he engage with Costa when Costa isn't on the front foot? So it all just depends. I think it could go either way with these two. You know, Costa can land and put some serious power on Adesanya, whereas the precision comes from the champion. So it's one of those fights you just don't know how to call it. It's going to be a good one for sure.
Definitely. I think, you know, Reese, on the eye, this is almost, it's not quite David versus Goliath, but, you know, looking at here, you've got action man in Paulo Costa, but, you know, he's rippling in terms of muscle size, and you've got Adesanya, who's become almost a skinny clown in terms of this build-up, you know, so to the eye, it's almost a one-way decision, isn't it? But obviously, we know what Adesanya brings, 19-0, it's going to be an incredible bout, isn't it?
Yeah, you summed it up really well, and I think Izzy did it as well in a week. Like, if you to a normal person who doesn't watch MMA, if you put these two next to each other, 99% of the people are going to pick Paulo Costa because the stature of the bloke is just insane, and how he cuts down to 85 is beyond me. You know, and Paulo's had such a good run in the UFC. He's improved a hell of a lot since Ultimate Fighter. You know, Adesanya's just. Let's not forget, it's 2.5 years since Adesanya made his debut, and he's UFC champion. And like for the last few fights he's had, I've gone up and down with him. That fight against Gastelum was obviously one of the best fights that I've saw. It was absolutely incredible, and you know he got hit a lot in that Gastelum fight. And against Whittaker, I was leaning for Whittaker because I just thought if Kelvin can do that, and Whittaker hits hard. And, you know, debatable who hits harder, but I always thought that maybe Whittaker could land, but Adesanya took him to the cleaners. It's Paulo Costa, man. The guy's huge, and if he lands, he might knock him out. But yeah, I think you're looking at either an early Paulo Costa knockout or a late Adesanya TKO or a points victory. I think.
Definitely, I was looking. You know, during the week, I thought, you know, I've been terrified of this fight all week until about Wednesday, Thursday. Because obviously I'm repping Adesanya, I got to rep my boy. But I was thinking Paulo Costa here. He was getting a little bit emotional. He was letting that side out of him a bit more. You know, he brought the belt up onto the weigh-ins, of course. Gave him the white belt. You know, I think Adesanya might be getting under his skin. I think that's probably more likely. I think Adesanya is someone who may be able to brush things off a little bit more easy. I don't know. Maybe you're looking at this and thinking that maybe Paulo Costa's got under the skin of Adesanya, Jay.
Yeah, I think it's the latter because, if anything, I haven't seen Adesanya this emotional before. Now, you also have to keep in mind, he is only 2.5 years into his UFC career, so it's hard to kind of dictate whether this is the normal for him or not. But from what I've seen so far, he hasn't been this emotional. Like he's the skinny comments are bothering him. Like you can see it in his reaction in the interviews. He gets like wound up by that, you know. the white belt stuff. Like, it's all just little tactics. I don't believe for a second that Costa is emotionally invested. I think he is in the sense that he wants to be a champion. In terms of who he's against, yeah, I don't think he's emotionally invested. And I do agree with Reese as well. Like, all week I've been kind of thinking about this fight as well, and I'm of the same opinion. I do believe that if I miss this fight, if I happen to wake up tomorrow morning and you told me that the fight was over in 2 rounds, I would say, well, it's going to be Paulo Costa. Like,
Yeah.
10 times out of 10. I'd be very surprised if Adesanya could get him out there before the first 3 rounds. But the latter rounds, like you seen, the 3rd round on against Yoel Romero, Paulo Costa tired out. And I believe if there was another 60 seconds in that fight, I could see Romero getting him out there. So it all kind of depends. Obviously, Costa would have looked at that and, you know, he'd have worked on some things, and we'll probably see that tonight. But a late finish for Adesanya is definitely not out of question either.
Definitely. And also, there was a lot of people questioning that Yoel Romero win, isn't it? A lot of people are saying that Yoel Romero won that fight. Of course, it's down official as Paulo Costa's win. And I think he probably just did edge it on the night, of course. He had a bicep tear, I believe, or a bicep injury at least. He had to have surgery for that, and that, you know, meant that Romero took that opportunity in March instead. Wasn't a great bout, but, you know, as you mentioned, Reese, the Kelvin Gastelum fight is one that, you know, you're going to be playing back 5 to 10 years down the line for Adesanya's career. There's a fight to go to. Whittaker was, it's 50-50 because he looked phenomenal against Whittaker, but again, Whittaker, you know, he's come out and said he's had some mental issues, he's had some blocks there, being the champion. So we don't know which Whittaker showed up. It'll be interesting to see when Cannonier Whittaker happens, if Whittaker wins that and we get potentially a rematch down the line. But for me, it is a tough one because I don't know, every fight we get to now for Adesanya, it's always this guy's going to beat him. But it hasn't worked out like that so far.
No, it hasn't. I think we need to be careful though, because, you know, we can sit here and we can mention, like, was it Whittaker poor tonight or was Adesanya that good? And I think we need to give a little bit of credit to Adesanya. Like, as I mentioned before, I was probably edging towards Whittaker if anything. But obviously, you know, Adesanya proved me wrong. But every single opponent that he faces, like, I do have that little bit of doubt that how good is Adesanya? And obviously we obviously know he's superb, but, you know, the fight against Gastelum was exactly the sort of fight that he needed as well, because we now know that he's got that grit and determination, and he can go 5 rounds, and he can get hit and he can get hurt, and he can still come back and do well. So this is an important fight for his legacy as well, because, you know, say he beats Paulo Costa, then you're looking at, you know, you may be looking at, I don't know, what, Cannonier maybe if he beats Whittaker.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't think there's an immediate contender out there. So you can kind of say that, I know Adesanya likes his video games, but he's completed the first wave if you want. The first wave of challengers have been and gone, and now he just needs to wait for the others to line up, I think.
Yeah, what do you make? Because obviously he has become this almost superstar in the last 12 months at least, since become the undisputed champ. Do you think there's any? He doesn't seem like that kind of person. But do you think the pressure of being a champion maybe? Because obviously, you know, he's on the headline of video games now. There's a lot more attention towards him, especially on the other side of Australasia, of course, Africa, with his heritage from Nigeria. There's a lot more pressure on him in terms of eyes on him. Do you think that might be getting to him, Jay?
No, he comes across as the type of person who kind of thrives off that. You know, that's what gets him going. Like, he's very much like Conor in a sense, where he wants that spotlight. He wants all the money. He wants the glitz and the glam. Like, he's kind of built from the same cloth, or cut from the same cloth as Conor. So I don't think that would be a negative factor for him. I think this is something that he'll actually excel in. You know, and like Reece said, beating Costa would be good for his legacy. But you look back at it, then you look at the list of people that he's knocked off: Romero, Whittaker, you know, Kelvin Gastelum,
Anderson
and
Silva.
Costa, then like Anderson Silva. Yeah, of course. Now, I didn't mention Anderson Silva. It wasn't a prime Anderson Silva, you know, but still, it's a great name to have on your record. So this would be huge for him, and vice versa for Paulo Costa as well. You know, I think Paulo Costa would be the exact same. I was kind of thinking about this earlier on. Let's say Paulo Costa wins tonight, right, and he becomes the champion. Now, Adesanya's after having all this promotion, this hype, the machine push behind him. I feel like this, if it would almost do a disservice to Costa if he won, because I don't think he would get that same push, that same promotion, specifically just because of the language. Now, I think he speaks very good English, Paulo Costa, but I don't think they would put the machine behind him. They very seldom do. Like, I don't even think they put it behind Yoel Romero. I think just these fighters, it's that body of work that gets them to where they are. And by right, that's how it should be as well. But you also have to have the machine back you a little bit. And I don't think certain fighters get that. And I think if Paulo Costa was to win tonight, I'd like to see that happen for him as well. You know what I mean? Because Adesanya fully deserves the push that he's gotten and the money he's earning and all the spotlight. But I think it should be carried over as well, because if you look at both of these fighters, right, Adesanya fits the bill as a champion. I mean, he has a great look, you know, like, right, he's a lean guy, he's a skinny guy, whatever, but he's a good-looking guy. He can talk well, and he can fight his ass off. Then Paulo Costa is the opposite, but kind of alike as well in the same time, in the same sense. Like, he's bulky, you know, muscle mass, can speak okay, he's a good look, and he'll knock your head off. I think both of these are kind of like model champions that if you wanted a division, or if you wanted a company to want a fighter to represent your company as a champion, I think both of these fit the bill. So I think the push should be kind of the same, because okay, they both fight differently, but they both bring it, and they're both entertaining. So I'd like to see that continue for both fighters in terms of promotion.
Definitely, I think if Adesanya wins tonight, it catapults him into a new level. Obviously, we know Conor McGregor is so far ahead, but I think Adesanya definitely probably becomes number 2 in terms of the stardom level, if you want to call it that. But for Paulo Costa, I think if he does win tonight, people will applaud him, but they won't go, right, here's XYZ sponsorships. They get a lot more, but he won't be, he won't be someone that is getting the second highest purse besides Conor McGregor.
That's my point, though. But like, and that's what I mean. Like, why not? Like, just because he speaks kind of broken English, why not put him on these talk shows? Why not have him do all the media runs and stuff? That's how you promote these fighters. That's how you get them out there. Like, casual fans, like, they'll watch fights and they'll be like, okay, right, very well, he's good, or whatever, but they'll forget about it 2 weeks later. You need to kind of push them down your throat a little bit. You get what I'm saying? And I think they only do that with certain people who kind of tick certain boxes. You speak well, you have a good look, and you can kind of sell. You know, I believe these fighters can sell if you also help them out. I just don't think they do that with certain champions.
Yeah, definitely. I think the greatest example we've got of that is Amanda Nunes. She's not really been marketed well until she beat Cyborg. I think, within the last 12, 18 months, she's become a lot more prevalent and she's become a superstar. But up until that Ronda Rousey fight, people wouldn't have known her. Obviously, Ronda Rousey, for that fight, got all the press attention. Obviously, it was a return fight, and I don't believe Nunes did much interviews, did she? She didn't get much press attention. And there's a similar thing to that tonight. Maybe that is just a marketing thing, but Paulo Costa, if he gets the win tonight, it would be the biggest win of his career. Because obviously, with all due respect, when as you mentioned, the casuals are looking down at their fight records, they see a 44-year-old Yoel Romero who is an Adonis. But it doesn't really compare when you look at Anderson Silva, Kelvin Gastelum, and the Robert Whitakers, is it? When you're lining up their resumes on paper, it doesn't quite add up, does it? In the most respectful sense.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I do think maybe he does need to beat Adesanya in order to get that. You know what I mean? But so who was the greatest fighter over the last 5 years? Who's been arguably the greatest fighter of all time in the last 5 years?
I'd probably shout for Amanda Nunes up there as well.
Nunes is probably number 1.
Would you not have said Demetrius Johnson? Like, greatest fighter.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
He didn't get any, no one bought his fights, but the UFC never helped him. Now, personally, I think I didn't really enjoy listening to him because he was he just wanted to either talk about games or that's it. You know what I mean? You very rarely kind of got into anything, but that's who he is. So you need to figure out how to promote him around who he is. And they never done that. And so they traded him for Ben Askren, who came in and got the shit kicked out of him, and then see you later. So sometimes they shoot themselves in the foot as well when they have a good thing. And I just think, that trend is going to keep happening with certain fighters.
Definitely, Reese. We'll have a quick look at the Taylor tape. Obviously, the reach. He's been called a skinny boy all week, but you forget how big Israel Adesanya is. 8-inch reach advantage, and 5-6 inches on his leg reach as well. He's not quite the skinny clown everyone calls him, is he?
He's not, no, and I think for me, I don't know if it was the same for you. When I first saw Adesanya and saw him up at middleweight, I was like, he's too small. I just don't. But he's been in there against Yoel Romero, who's bigger than him. Robert Whittaker, although he's smaller, he's probably more well built than Adesanya is. But you can see those stats, and obviously the reach. I think is going to, for Adesanya's part at least, anyway. I think that 8-inch advantage is going to play a massive part. And now and again, I'll change my mind on the outcome of a fight, and then I'll somehow stumble upon those stats again. And I look at that reach advantage, and I'm just like, in my head, my sensible side of me is just like Adesanya's just going to pick him off all night. And Costa may land a couple here and there, but Adesanya will just keep him at bay. And the leg reach as well, maybe. But we haven't really saw Adesanya utilise his wrestling too much. He got taken down a couple of times against Kelvin, I think, but they were both so tired. But the Taylor tape's interesting. And once again, if you compare the two, you'd pick Costa on pure aesthetics, but when you look at the stats and you're picking Izzy all day long. So I don't know if I'd say it's a 50-50 fight. I think Adesanya's definitely favourite. I think he'd maybe looking at 60-40. But Costa definitely deserves a shout in there. And I'm trying to be wondering all week, would it be a massive shock if Costa won? Because I don't think it would be. I don't think you could sit here and go it's one of the biggest shocks in recent history. I don't think you can say that. And that's testament to how good Paulo Costa is. Yeah.
The only way it'd be any sort of upset or shock is if he dominated him for 5 rounds and came up with a 50-45 sort of level scorecard. But the biggest thing that scares me there with the statistics is we know how clinical Adesanya's striking is, but another hand right from a smaller guy in terms of height for Paulo Costa. Those other hand rights, we saw both Kelvin Gastelum and Romero catch Adesanya with those, and we saw him hurt. We don't know how hurt, but again, it caught him. And I think the main thing with Costa is he's not going to stop. He's not going to just throw one overarm. He's got the pace and the ability to throw 2 or 3. Because obviously we saw with Romero, he'd throw one, and he wouldn't follow that up with anything, and Adesanya was able to get out of the way. But that's my biggest fear, really. But I think Adesanya's the clips going around. He doesn't spray his shots. He aims and fires them in a clinical nature. We saw that against Derek Brunson. It gives me hope, but it also scares me the fact that the other hand right from Costa, times especially in that Romero fight, Jay, is such an explosive weapon for him, almost like Tyron Woodley.
Yeah, it is, but it's also like you said, that will only get you when Costa's throwing these shots and he's swinging, and fair enough, some may land and some mightn't, but by the time you get to the halfway mark of, let's say, the 3rd round, he's blown out of his arse, basically. You know what I mean? He's tired. And then that's when he kind of sits back. Then he has to kind of get his second wind and stuff. That's where Izzy needs to take advantage. Don't give him a minute. Smack him to the body time and time again. Pop that jab in his face constantly. Chop his legs. Do whatever you can. Don't give him a minute, because the second you let him back up to the fence and recapture that breath, then just means that there's another power shot coming at you, and it's another one that you're going to have to try and evade, and sometimes that just mightn't always be the case. Costa has the ability to knock any man out in that division, and as good as he is and his defense, he's still going to be susceptible to taking a shot, and I just don't think he wants to take them off Paulo Costa tonight.
I think the body work from both men, I think, is going to be key as well. But Paulo Costa's body work is sensational. You saw it against every single fighter he's been in against. But, if you had Adesanya, you take into the fact that at the end of that 3rd round, at the end of that fight with Romero, he was blown out of his ass. There's no doubt about it. They both were. But, Costa hasn't had... I don't think Costa's had a 5-round fight in UFC yet. No. So, I think if you're Adesanya, you utilise your own body work and you try and tire Costa out quicker than he gets tired, because we know the volume that Costa has. We know he's just going to come at it. I think it's a question of how quickly Costa gets tired, should I say. So, and I think that's where the basis of a lot of predictions are this week, is that it will be Costa early or Adesanya late. But I think the body work is going to be key. But I think Adesanya's got more tools when it comes to body work. You know, he can land that punch. He can even land it. I know, obviously, a jab doesn't really do much to a body, but over time, it accumulates. It will definitely hurt. But you know, you've got the kicks, you've got everything. And if Adesanya wants to take it to the ground, he can take it to the ground. And with what happened yesterday at the weigh-ins with the white belt and the black belt, maybe Adesanya wants to take it to the ground. Maybe he wants to put him down and see if he can submit him or, you know, ground and pound his way to victory. But I think body work is going to be the key for me.
That would be just such a flex, wouldn't it, though, to take him down and submit him?
It would be, yeah.
All this shit about black belts and white belts.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I'm going to choke you out and see how you like it. That would be so good, man. And that's the thing. Like, we kind of spoke about it earlier. Like, does he get the respect that he deserves? Like every time he has a fight, well, this is the person to beat. You know, sometimes like we said that about Jon Jones for years. You know, Machida will beat him. Rampage will knock him out. You know, Gustafsson will beat him. Like, you know, we've seen it. Connor, like, he fight a wrestler. All right, he'll beat him. But yeah, but he fights Aldo, he's going to get his legs chopped off 13 seconds. Like, so, like, the certain fighters, Ronda Rousey was one of them. You know, you can go on and on. But at the end of the day, sometimes you just have to give these people the respect they deserve. And Adesanya is clearly the best middleweight on the planet right now. So respect should be given, win or lose tonight.
I think you're spot on with what you mentioned about, you know, the next man will be the man to beat him. Because as you mentioned, we kind of like, for me, when Conor was lined up to face Eddie Alvarez, I thought Eddie was going to win. Because that was by far the toughest test that Conor's faced. You know, and questions keep getting asked, but as a champion, you know, as you know, he's in that mindset now. A champion, he's held about for a year or just over a year or so now, so he knows what it takes. But it's now up to him to rise to the occasion to actually prove everyone wrong. Because you know, there's a lot of people out there that think Costa will win, and so I think he's going to have that added motivation to actually go out there and get the job done. I think.
Do you think if Costa wins, they get a rematch, even though Izzy's only been the champion for 2 fights?
I was going to ask that earlier because I'm not sure.
Someone tells me they would.
Maybe just because we've got Cannonier and Whittaker matched up, we've also got Hermansson and Till matched up. There wouldn't be, you know, unless you want to do Paulo Costa Romero too, which I don't think anyone, when they see that, I don't think anyone is going to want to see Romero in a title shot. But that would be.
Yeah, I only want to see Romero in title shots. Like, you don't understand. Like, I don't care how many he loses. I want to see him fight for titles. Yoel Romero is my favorite fighter on the UFC roster. I just want to see him fight. I don't care. I'll happily take a 20-minute stand there and do that for that 1 5-minute round where he just goes ape shit. I don't care. I'm all in.
The thing is, though, is that say if Whittaker beats Cannonier, does Whittaker deserve another title shot?
Yeah. Yeah, because Cannonier is like right there.
Yeah. See,
so
yeah.
It's only fair.
I think
that's yeah. I think that's the biggest argument, isn't it?
I think that's
is that do we have a clear contender?
If we throw out the middleweight rankings now, obviously we've got Israel Costa tonight, and the fact that Robert Whittaker is still number 1 contender, Paulo Costa isn't even the number 1 contender going into tonight's fight. So you got obviously Cannonier Whittaker happening at 254, so that would probably determine the number 1 contender. Then you got Hermansson Till in November, which would probably would get the loser of that Whittaker Cannonier fight, I'd imagine.
I think so. Like that champion through to 5 is obviously elite. I just look at Derek Brunson. I just don't think Derek Brunson has it in him personally. Although you know, I had Edmund beating Derek, and obviously Derek, you know, veteran that he is, it turned out a gritty win. But yeah, I mean, Whittaker's just beat Till, Hermansson's just beat Gastelum. It's not often you look at a division's rankings like that, and you've kind of got everybody fighting everybody. The only person who isn't there is Derek Brunson. Yeah. I don't know. It's a tough one, isn't it?
For me, the number 1 contender is the winner of Whittaker and Till. Like, Hermansson, he's been on a roll, but if you beat Darren Till, that makes him 1-4 in his last 5. That makes Till 1-4 in his last 5.
Yeah.
I don't think that's enough to warrant a title shot. I think you're getting that off his name at that point. And I love Darren Till. I think he's quality, and I do think his better years are still ahead of him. But I just don't think if you beat Till right now, that gets you a title shot. You shouldn't, in my eyes. But
I also think that if there was fans about now, I think you'd say if Till beat Hermansson or even beat Whittaker, I think you'd be seeing a Till Adesanya fight. Because, you know, obviously Adesanya's spoken about it before. He'd love to do that at Anfield or Wembley or something. And to have a fight of that stature over here in the UK, I mean, what the last big fight we had over here was Bisping.
Yeah, Bisping Hendo too.
So I think that
That was
Darren
the fight
Till's.
last, right?
I mean, yeah, we can go with that one. But like if you had the fans, I think you're looking at a Till Adesanya fight quicker than you would be. But with the fans, I think it's going to be a case of you're going to have to earn your shot at a champion. And but for me, if Adesanya loses tonight, I do think he deserves a rematch, especially when you've got Whitaker and Cannonier not happening until December, I think it is, or whenever it is. So yeah.
Definitely. I'll jump in there. What? Obviously, you mentioned a bit before, Jay. What do you make of this? And I think you've mentioned it, Reese, too. The fact that it's Costa's first 5-round fight. We've seen Adesanya do this or prepare for 5-round fights for four of his 4 last fights, of course. And one of those went the distance and he got the fight of the year contender. And the fact that it is in an empty arena, this one's going to be phenomenal because they're going to be chatting shit to each other throughout the whole fight, I'd imagine, especially as it goes to 5 rounds. It'd be interesting to see what happens. But do you think the fact... I think that Adesanya's going to walk out a little bit more calmer today going into that. Costa not being used to maybe going into that main event, not having all those eyes towards him. Do you think the event could be a little bit too much for him in an emotional sense, or do you think he's ready for it?
I'm not sure. It could go either way because Israel Adesanya is a showman as well. And there's no crowd there to show to, in a sense. And he likes that. Like, you see when he's giving it all this to Anderson Silva in front of the crowd and the dances and stuff. Like, he does that for a show to get a rise, to get the crowd going, but there is none of that. But he's a professional, so I still expect him to go out and put on a professional performance, nonetheless. So I don't think they've had enough time to kind of adapt to what's happening right now. So I don't really think it'll be a problem. But then again, it is their first fight since this whole lockdown, so it all just kind of depends on what's normal for them. But it's kind of hard to judge. I think Paulo Costa is there with tunnel vision. I think he's there for one goal and one goal only, and that's to be the champion. I think there's more goals there for Adesanya. I don't think he's thinking about the gold belt at this point in time. I think he's thinking beyond. Maybe Jon Jones, maybe just legacy at middleweight, one of the best champions of the division's history. So there's different goals. So I'm expecting professional performance on both ends.
I do worry about Costa's 5-round ability, though.
Yeah.
I was just looking at his record now, and even his first fight in the UFC, his 9 fights before that, 8 fights before that, all finished in the first round. So, I mean, you look in UFC, round two, and then obviously 3 rounds against Romero. And with all due respect, and we all know how good Paulo Costa is, but you look at the names on his resume, and how many of those do you actually take notice of? Uriah Hall and Romero, maybe? Over 2. Johnny Hendricks was kind of past. He was over the hill, and he should. That for me was like, I love the matchmakers at UFC. They do a great job, but putting Paulo Costa in there with Johnny Hendricks was one of the worst things I've ever witnessed in my life. It was just such a mismatch. It was terrible. So in terms of names, like, Paulo Costa hasn't really beat anyone where you go, wow. Whereas Adesanya kind of now has. And with the lack of that 5-round ability, I mean, like, even Adesanya, he went 5 rounds against Tavares, and he's gone 5 rounds against Gastelum, and he went 5 rounds against Romero. So he's got that experience, and I think that's going to play a massive factor in this fight.
It's like they said in the Yoel Romero fight. I actually have it paused on my TV here because I was watching just before we went live. He hadn't been past the 7-minute mark up until that fight. And Reese, you probably have that in front of you. If you do, like, you know, like, that is the case. Like, you literally 2 minutes into the second is the longest he goes for. He gets you out.
2 minutes and 38 seconds against Uriah Hall into the second round.
He doesn't get paid by the hour. He's there to just go in and handle business and get out of there. And
how many of those fighters have actually thrown back as well, with the precision that Adesanya's got? Because I think that's a question as well. I don't think anyone has.
None with the precision. I mean, maybe Uriah Hall is a very precise striker. Just they're at different stages of their career, aren't they? Like, whereas, like, you remember Uriah Hall when he came off the Ultimate Fighter. Jesus Christ, Chael Sonnen was telling him on the show that he's a contender for the title. Yeah. to win the show. You know what I mean? Obviously, he didn't live up to that once he came out there, but a very decorated striker. Adesanya is the same, more precise though. But in terms of being tested, Paulo Costa has definitely been tested. I mean, Yoel Romero, you don't have a fight with Yoel Romero and not get tested. Your chin will be checked at some point. You can beat him down, but he will check you at some point and he'll see what you're made of.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we saw it with Whittaker, haven't we? The toll it's taken on Whittaker's body in those 50 minutes he's in there with Romero is ridiculous.
I had this conversation with a guy in work. There's a fellow who comes into my job, a South African fella, and he comes in, he's mad for MMA, and he was saying to me, he's like, well, he took Yoel Romero shots, so he should be fine. But it was like, wait, well, Robert Whittaker took Yoel Romero shots.
Yeah.
And he got knocked clean out by Adesanya. It's not about the power. Like, obviously power matters. Power can do enough to shut you out. Depends on your footwork at the time. Depends on your breathing at the time. And that the power can shut you out. But when it's precision, none of that matters. And that's what Adesanya has. So that's also
what Conor's got as well.
Yeah.
In terms of power, Conor's not really that powerful. But it's just the pure speed and precision of that left hand just stuns his opponents, and that's what Adesanya's got.
You said it earlier about Eddie Alvarez, and Eddie Alvarez even said it. He's like, it wasn't the power. I just didn't see it coming. And it got me out there, you know what I mean? And Adesanya does have that. Like, that shot, that left hook against Whittaker was beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And Paulo Costa being this heavy hitter, it doesn't matter. You took Yoel Romero's shots, that's great, but if he catches you slipping once and he catches you with such a right on the button, it's lights out no matter how big you are, no matter how heavy you are. It's lights out.
Definitely. I went just.
Sorry, Mitch, I forgot you were here.
It's okay. You're absolutely filling me with confidence tonight. Thanks, guys. But as I say, before we move on to the light heavyweight title and predictions for this main event, of course, how important or how effective do you think it is? But the fact that Israel Adesanya's got his countrymen, Kai Kara France is on the card, Brad Riddell, Jake Matthews, all of these guys have been training with him at City Kickboxing. I think they've been locked in together for the last 3 or 4 months at least during lockdown. Paulo Costa's a little bit on his own. He hasn't really got anyone that's a teammate of his fighting on the card. How important, Adesanya, obviously with COVID, they're not going to be in the arena at the same time. But he's going to be watching all his countrymen and his teammates fight.
Oh, we've lost Mitch.
Yeah. Do you want to take his point though, Lloyd? Because I know what he's getting at.
I think I know where he's getting at. I think in terms of, Adesanya's got 3 or 4 teammates on the card beforehand. So he's going to be there. I mean, I'm not sure what the protocol is, but he's going to be there watching his teammates, hopefully get the win. And he can almost check them off the lists: 1 win, 2 win, 3 win, 4 win. And it's kind of like, I'll finish off with a bang. And that's kind of what we saw last time out against Whittaker as well, is that whenever Adesanya fights, it's a very City kickboxing heavy card, or even just Australian, New Zealand card. So I think he can definitely use that as motivation. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember he done it with Conor a few times. Either Gunny Nelson would fight on his cards or else Artem would fight on his cards.
Yeah.
And whether they won or lost, it never really mattered for Conor. Conor tended to get the job done. But I remember when Anthony Pettis fought, he fought Adesanya and he lost the title, didn't he? But Sergio Pettis took a beat down earlier that night. And he had to watch his little brother go out and take a beating. And then he got mauled himself by Dos Anjos. So sometimes it can be a gift and a curse, I mean, when your team's winning, it just keeps the morale going, doesn't it? And you go out there, you're confident, you're ready to show off it, and you put on a performance. But when your team kind of comes out on the worst end of it, how does that affect his mindset? How does that affect his mental state of mind going into that cage? And I mean, they can be factors, but maybe we're just kind of reaching for things to see if there's any little chinks in his armor. But yeah, I don't think it'll be the case. I think Adesanya's pretty cold when it comes to getting into the cage, regardless of his teammates being on the card.
I think if you had Adesanya though, if all your teammates win, regardless of who Adesanya is, I think you'd hate to be the one to lose. You'd hate to be especially with where he's at in his career and where he's at the card at the end of the day. they were fighting on his undercard. So you definitely hate to be the one to lose. But I think that we could see a clean sweep from City Kickboxing tonight. I think they've all got relatively favourable matchups. I think we all saw Shane Young yesterday at the weigh-ins, and Dana White was definitely left a little bit confused. And I think that was the first time we've ever seen Dana White speechless. I think it was definitely interesting to see that. But they bring such good energy to the UFC, especially in a market which we've had incredible fighters over the years, and now we're starting to get a second wave, so to say. So I think it's only good for the sport, and I think Adesanya can use it to his advantage tonight.
Definitely. Okay, in that case, let's get predictions then. I'll go first. I'll be the bold one. I'm going to go with Adesanya 4th round TKO. I think he puts money in the bank in the body shots for Paulo Costa in those first 2 rounds. He might get a couple of knocks back himself. We might see it like Gastelum. He might get knocked down in the first or second, recover, and then go for the kill in those 4th or 5th round. But I'm going to go 4th round TKO. I think Adesanya remains a champion. But Jay, I think you got a good counteract for that, haven't you?
Yeah, well, first of all, I call bullshit on your prediction only because I feel like there's bias in it, and I don't think you're being logical. But I'll let you have it. It's okay. And again, you're not going to like me even more because I think Paulo Costa will be the new middleweight champion by the end of the night. I think he will stop Adesanya viciously as well in the 2nd round.
I don't want to see it.
I think it's sensible. I'm split down the middle. Like 80% of me, I'm quite confident Adesanya's just going to pick Costa off at range. He might get a finish later on, but like Adesanya's been hit before. But has he been hit by someone who hits as hard as Paulo Costa? I don't think he has. So can he get up from Paulo Costa? I don't know. I think I'm going to side with Adesanya on points, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a Costa knockout. I will flip my shit at fucking 6 o'clock in the morning, and I will lose everything. I've already lost a pair of pants this afternoon from the Manchester United game. I'll have to lose another pair tonight if Paulo Costa knocks him out. But I'm going to go with Adesanya on points.
What are the odds of him finishing it after the final bell's gone with an illegal blow?
Maybe, yeah. And I'm using the replay to determine a way of a fight. Yeah, we can do that. That works.
I'm getting text messages here, like friends asking for shout outs and all. It's unbelievable. I'll just say,
Conor Miley, is it?
Right, you baldy.
This guy.
Yeah.
Way to drop him, innit?
He's got to screenshot that now. He's going to be famous. He's a failed actor.
He agrees with you that Costa's going to win. He thinks he's going to get it done in the 4th round. But we'll move on to the light heavyweight title, which is vacant, of course. Jon Jones is moving up to heavyweight. And I was looking at the stats here. Adesanya is bigger than both these two in terms of reach and height. All the statistics, he's bigger than them. So maybe we see Adesanya, if he wins or loses tonight, thinks, maybe I can move up to light heavyweight. That was his plan going into next year against Jon Jones. Obviously, that fight's not on the cards anymore. But Dominick Reyes, Adesanya, I'd be there for. But obviously tonight, Dominick Reyes, Jan Blachowicz, Reese, vacant light heavyweight title on the line. The first one, in terms of new champ, that isn't DC or Jon Jones since 2011. I think the light heavyweight division is back for a little while.
It feels a bit weird, doesn't it? The fact that it's going to be someone other than Jones or DC. I think this fight is kind of going under the radar purely because of the main event. It's still a fantastic fight. I think we can all agree, and I'll give a shout out to Arian, who is obviously rooting for his Polish friend Jan Blachowicz.
He will lose his shit if Jan wins.
Yeah, let's just say the group chat will be off its absolute tits this morning if that happens. But it's a great fight. Reyes coming off the so-called win, if you want, of Jon Jones, even though I had Jon Jones winning it. But I think it's interesting with Reyes because Reyes lost, although he didn't officially lose. He lost to Volkan. He lost to Uzumir, and he got away with that one. But he's managed to put that behind him now, and he's come back really well. And Jan's just got that Polish power, and you can't ignore that. And we saw that, against Corey Anderson. He just dismantled Corey Anderson. He sent Corey Anderson to Bellator. He absolutely wiped the floor with Luke Rockhold, which, as a Brit and Michael Bisping, I've never been happier to see Rockhold on the floor on his ass than we was when he fought Jan Blachowicz. So I think it's a really intriguing fight, and I think it's a 50-50 fight. I don't know who's going to win.
Definitely, he's come into this. Obviously, as you mentioned there, he's on a 3-fight win streak since that loss to Thiago Santos. I thought Jon Jones had the title, of course, but that KO against Luke Rockhold was disgusting. It was brutal, and as the one was the Corey Anderson one. But obviously, Luke Rockhold came in there, former middleweight champion, going that if I can get a win here against Jan, I'm probably in line to face Jon Jones. And Chris Weidman did the same thing, trying to face Dominick Reyes. Obviously, neither of their plans went the right way, and they got quite quickly sent back to the middleweight division, with all due respect. But Jan Blachowicz does have a tendency. That fight against Santos, he was 2 rounds up, and he lost it right at the end of that 3rd round. So it can be caught. But I think tonight, we've seen that Yana Jacek put in her best wishes to Jan out there. I think the Polish Power might get it done tonight.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I'll take no, not so much. I think Dominick Reyes, even at the Jones fight, I think he looked very well, and I think I don't know. I can't see Jan beating him, and I know Arian's gonna be angry. Like, I remember there was a time in the group chat where you and Arian literally chewed my balls off for saying something completely inaccurate, and this is gonna be the same thing. So I'm just gonna have to accept it, take me lumps. But I think Dominick Reyes is probably the best light heavyweight now that Jon Jones has left the division and got the heavyweight. So yeah, I don't want to see Adesanya up there neither. We were talking about that a couple of minutes ago. I don't want to see Adesanya near light heavyweight. I don't think that'll do too well for him.
Potentially, we don't know, do we? But
I feel like I'm saying bad things about everyone hearing this thing. I'm a fanboy of Adesanya.
You're the Chael Sonnen of it. You're being the Chael Sonnen tonight. You're playing the bad guy pretty well, but obviously, both of these guys are expecting to probably face Jon Jones for the title. Obviously, a lot of people thought Reyes deserved that rematch. A lot of people were saying Jan Blachowicz on his recent wins deserved that title shot. But, both of them come out and said, there was a little, not upset, but a little, they thought they missed an opportunity to face Jon Jones. But tonight, they put it all behind them too. And I think, Reyes has come across as a very nice guy, as has Blachowicz. So I think it'll be a very respectful fight. But I think once that cage door locks, we're in for a treat.
I think we definitely are. I think we both know they've both got power to end the fight. You mentioned it there with Jan walking onto the right hand of Santos when he fought. I'm trying to cast my mind back to if Reyes has ever really been hit, and I can't recall one that I can put at the top of my head, but. I think that for me, especially after his performance against Jon Jones, I think Reyes has to be the favourite. But you can't rule out a Polish Power. You just simply can't. And at any moment they can just turn it on and you're out. I mean, we saw that with Luke Rockhold. Like, Luke Rockhold started that fight very, very quickly, very aggressively. Using his leg kicks very well, as he's always been known to. And then Jan kind of slowly come back into the fight, and you could see the power was definitely with Jan. And then you come out of a clinch, and it's lights out and it's over before you know it. And it's exactly the same with Corey Anderson. It was a short punch, and it flattened him. So at any moment, this fight can be ended by either man. But for me, I'd probably lean towards Reyes just about.
Yeah, like, I know I'm picking Reyes myself, but I do think, regardless, someone is definitely getting knocked out in that fight.
Yeah.
In my honest opinion, I don't see it going the full 5 rounds. And speaking about what Jan done with Luke Rockhold, that was one of those knockouts where I've actually felt sorry for the person who got knocked out. Like, they both signed up to do that. Like, do you know what I mean? I know you don't, being this big fans, I get it. But like, when you see Rockhold on the ground, right, and he just looked so alone after getting knocked out, and he's looking around, and his team aren't even rushing in to get into him, and he's just looking around and he's taking in everything after getting KO'd. It was the only time I felt sorry for him. It was a nasty knockout. Like, he's had bad knockouts. The Bisping one, the Yoel Romero one. But that one was bad. And I think Jan can easily do that again tonight, but something just tells me Reyes will get it done.
Yeah, definitely. I'm of the similar mindset of the main event, in terms of, I think Reyes is probably the more technical, the more smarter fighter against this, the higher fight IQ. But I think Jan, I'm a betting man. I go for Jan between 1 and 3, and Dominick Reyes probably 3 to 5. I think he gets it done in those later months. Don't see him getting a quicker knockout as he did against Weidman. But again, Jan Blachowicz, if he tries and knocks Reyes out within those first 3 rounds, he might gas himself out a little bit. Reyes has been 5 rounds, of course, with Jones, whereas Blachowicz hasn't been 5 rounds yet, I don't believe. He's not been outside the 3rd round, I don't think.
It might not, but I think that both men are experienced enough to know 5 round sort of pace that's needed, so to say. But I was watching Embedded this week, and just want to say that Jan Blachowicz looks an absolute picture of focus. He looks in great shape, and he's very, very focused. And I think one of the
champion.
He does, and I almost get the sense of he feels it's now his time. And I think a big weight has been lifted off the light heavyweight division shoulders now that Jon Jones has moved up. I feel that maybe fighters can express themselves more, maybe, because let's be honest, no one was beating Jon Jones. So everyone was kind of just like, well, if you win, it's cool, yeah, but you're not going to beat Jon Jones. So I think now Jon Jones has moved up. I think that we're going to see a more fruitful division, and I think we're going to see a lot more better fights at such a higher level as well.
Definitely. We had a quick look at the tail of tape. As you mentioned there, it's very close in terms of their reach, their leg reach, of course. A couple of inches in height for Reyes, but look at that experience. 26 and 8th for the Polish power against 12 and 1 for Reyes, who was undefeated, and many argue he still should be undefeated. But that's a lot of fights for Blachowicz, isn't it, compared to Reyes?
Yeah, 13 to 34. It's definitely there for Jan in terms of experience, but Dom's come in, and Dom's done a fantastic job in the UFC, and he kind of rose to the top very quickly, where Jan's kind of had a more gradual rise to the top. I think he started off. I think he beat Latifi with body kick and punches, and he lost a couple very inconsistent. But now he started to find his groove, and it was unfortunate for him that he lost to Santos, because he was kind of lined up for a title shot then. But I think he's learned from that. He got caught rushing in there, and you can't do that against. I say you can't do it. You can't do that against any 205er, because you are going to get caught on the end of a punch. So I think this is Jan's time. I think realistically, and I don't like saying this, but I think this is his best chance to win a title. Because if Reyes wins, I think Reyes can dominate that division for a long, long time.
Yeah, Dominick Reyes kind of reminds me of Chris Weidman. He had that very little experience going in against, when Weidman went in against Anderson Silva. Weidman was 10-0. By no means he should have been in there. I think he was actually 9-0. He never should have been in there with Anderson Silva, who had the record that he had, the experience that he had, and he went in and done the job. Now, Reyes didn't go in and beat Jon Jones, but he made a good account of himself, didn't he? And it kind of reminded me of that, but Jon Jones is just on a different level. So we do think Reyes can take that, learn from it, and bring that into the fight tonight with Jan. And I do agree with Reese. I do think this is the best chance for Jan to be a champion. If he loses tonight, I don't think it's over for him. I still think he can get back there. But you have to understand, that division's still going to get better. Thiago Santos is going to come back. Him and Reyes for a title would be a banger. Depending on what Anthony Johnson wants to do when he comes back, I don't know if he can even make 205 at this point.
He's looking very lean at the moment.
What?
He's looking very lean at the moment. Sorry to cut
If you bring him back into that division, he probably looked at Jon Jones going to heavyweight and saying, I'm going to go get a title now, because these guys are going to want to stand with me, and I'm going to knock them clean out. So the division's only going to get better as well. So I don't think it is now or never for Jan, but it's probably the best chance. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think this is one of those moments where almost the stars are aligning for him. Obviously, I think it was Yoni and Jacek, or at least the media has said that this could be the biggest moment in history for Polish MMA should he get the win tonight. Which I think when we saw Yoni and Jacek versus Karolina Kowalkiewicz at UFC 205, that probably is the biggest moment in terms of two Polish fighters going for the title. If they're saying this is eclipsing that, that's a huge moment for Jan.
It is, but he's got to win first, though.
Yes.
So
I think it would have done more though if it was Jones. I don't think it would be that big if you beat Reyes. It's great for Polish MMA and especially in Europe as well. But if you've done it against Jones, statues are getting built of him in Poland.
Yeah. You,
I don't
you,
think that
you,
happens.
you instantly get that respect, don't you, if you beat someone like Jon Jones?
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? You walk down the road, people walk on the other side. You know what I mean? It's like, holy shit. You know, but I don't think it'll be the same if he beats Reyes.
Yeah,
But
we have
I
got
don't know
comment-
what it's like in Poland, so I can't tell you. You know, it's just my
We have-
opinion.
We've got a comment here from John Doe saying greetings from Poland. So it's very late in the evening, but I guess you're staying up. Obviously, you got your talisman, I guess you could call Jan Blachowicz fighting for the title. So yes, greetings from the UK. Over to you guys in Poland. Of course, you guys are,
And Ireland.
Yeah.
Ireland.
And Ireland.
And Ireland. Let's get that in there before I get killed in the group chat in about 20 minutes. But let's get the predictions in then. I'm gonna
Typical English always claiming the Irish. What you are?
I was sticking up for you.
I know you were. That's all.
Yeah.
Hey.
Fuck's sake, Mitch.
I didn't say anything, but hey, let's get the predictions in then. I'm going Jan Blachowicz. I'll go the third round KO. Let's see if he gets it done in the third round.
I don't want to get on Aaron's bad side, but I'm going to anyway. I'm going to say a Dominick Reyes fourth round murder.
Murder.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, as Jay said earlier, I think it's going to be, I don't think it goes to distance. I'd be very surprised if it does. I think we're going to see a clean punch that's going to instantly knock someone out. And I'm going to lean towards Reyes for me.
Definitely. Jay?
Yeah, I think the same. I think Reyes gets it done. I was going to say the second round as well, but I said that for the costume, so I kind of just want to switch it up. So I'm going to say the fourth round. I'm going to say Jan gets knocked out in the fourth round. Dominick Reyes, the new light heavyweight champion. Sorry, Arya. And sorry to the lad in the comments, the Polish guy. But yeah.
Yes. Obviously, we had some news yesterday. We also had, probably the biggest star on tonight's card, you could say, is Diego Sanchez. He's coming back. He's been through the ringer on social media in the past 24 hours. Obviously, yesterday Conor McGregor said, leaked DMs with him and Dana asking for a fight with Diego Sanchez. Obviously, today we had the Matt Serra and his coach Joshua Fabia incident.
Brilliant.
Guys,
TV gold. TV gold.
I'm telling you, like, what does this tell you, right? What they think of him? Because like the fact that they could even put that in a show and it could publicly like belittle him. Yeah,
The biggest thing for me was that Dean Thomas was secretly filming it on his phone, and it somehow made it onto the YouTube video, which was just incredible. But I mean, don't get me wrong. Like we spoke about cornermen or corner women before. Mike Perry's obviously had his fiance with him recently, but nothing. Look, like Diego Sanchez has been around forever. He's been so long. He's been around. I think in the UFC since. I think he's been there longer than I've been alive. So, but with all due respect to Diego Sanchez, his life coach, guru, whatever you want to help, self-medicate. I don't know what you want to call him, but he's not a cornerman. He doesn't know anything about the sport. He's just purely there for his mindset. And we saw the fight against Michel Pereira was an absolute disgrace from both of them. Really, it was fucking terrible. It really was. But to have don't get me wrong. Like Matt Serra obviously is not as kind of well received as he used to be, but for someone that if you put this Joshua lad next to Matt Serra, there's only one winner. So to have the bollocks to go up to Matt Serra, fair play to him, but it was never going to end well for him. Matt Serra, from what was on YouTube video, just absolutely shut him down.
Like he demands this respect that like I don't know why he feels he's earned. Like
he demands respect he doesn't deserve.
Yeah, he hasn't earned anything. So like, don't go up to Matt Serra and say, "Look, I'm kind of pissed off that you don't even want to mention my name."
Guys got to win at the GSP.
And the best part about it all was that he went back to Dana. Like Dana and Matt went back to Dana to tell him, and Dana's there pissing himself laughing about it as well. Like they showed him no respect whatsoever. Like to me, it was hilarious. I don't take to him whatsoever. I don't think he's beneficial for Diego Sanchez at all. He's actually a hindrance, and he's also taking money from him in that sense as well, like being his either manager as well as life coach / guru, right? And then
I think Matt Serra said that, didn't he? Matt Serra said that, like, you just make the money you can make off Diego, and then see you later.
100%. Like he's probably taking 2 paychecks as his coach as well as his manager. Do you know what I mean? And then, like even Sarah said it to him, he's like, I've seen some of your stuff that you do and I think it's silly. Like he walks up and touches your pressure point and all of a sudden people are flipping over onto the mats. Like it's bollocks. It's not real. It's fucking Steven Seagal shit. Like, just scrap that. Like I don't know. Like I felt a type of way, right? I felt a type of way when Conor leaked that message between him and Dana because I thought that type of stuff should be kind of
private. It's business, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Like you're negotiating, so like don't put that out there. It's kind of good that we can kind of see an insight to them conversations, but I don't think it's very respectful. But like even Dana said, like we would lose our promoter's license if we booked Diego Sanchez. Like it's just not fair. Like you can't do that. And I get Diego Sanchez. Like I actually had a tweet right years ago. I tweeted Diego Sanchez about why he talks so much shit about Conor McGregor. And this is when Diego was above Conor. And he was like, I see the talent, but I hate what he stands for. And it was funny how it comes full circle where Diego's calling for that fight as his final fight. It's just, I think, to me, that's too many hits to the head. I think...
Get the red panties out.
No, because like the thing is with Diego Sanchez...
because he's going to be in a bleeding hospital and fucking...
Probably his coach.
Probably his coach. Just give him to the coach. But like, I just don't. He'd absolutely wear him. Then he'd go up to Matt Serra and steal what he said. But I now start to worry about Diego Sanchez because I kind of think that the impact that this, I'm just going to call him the guru because it's easier. But the impact that he's having on Diego Sanchez, and when you see Diego Sanchez like on Embedded this week, he just doesn't look with it. It just looks like the guy's had too much of a calming influence on him. He's kind of just almost took Diego Sanchez's fighter brain out of here, threw it out into the Abu Dhabi Ocean, and just put this whole new Zen sort of thing in. And it just doesn't sit. It's for someone like Diego Sanchez, who's been around forever. You know, we all love the veterans. We all love these guys who come to fight regardless. You know, Diego Sanchez has been in so many good fights over the years, and I feel like we're kind of getting away from that now. And I think the main question I had was, would you have saw in Sanchez's last fight against Pereira? You know, I've said it before. I don't like to say fighters are quitters because I wouldn't have the bollocks to get in there myself. But I think Diego Sanchez quit in that fight for me.
Yeah.
But 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, would Diego Sanchez have quit?
Not in a million years.
There's no way about it. And I think a lot of that is to do with this mind, with this guru guy, because I can imagine he's there in the octagon, and you've got on one shoulder you've got the OG Diego Sanchez, who's like, bite down on your mouthpiece and just fucking swing for it. And then you've got the guru who's like, yeah, but think about your mindset. So it's bollocks. It just doesn't do you well for me as a fighter. Like, it's the wrong sort of person to be coaching. You don't coach a fighter for me.
That scenario was all wrong. Like you said, Diego Sanchez wouldn't have said that 5-10 years ago. Like, not a chance. But to go 2 rounds down and take that shot and then ask the referee, what happens if I can't continue? Well, you'll get the win by a DQ. Okay. I can't continue. Okay, fine, you win. Do you know what I mean? It's just like everything about it was wrong. And I don't believe that that's Diego Sanchez. I believe that's something that's been like just drilled into his mind. I remember watching his pre-fight interviews when he fought Chiesa. And I was just like, what is going on with this person? Like, he's just not there. And I feel like he's had too many hits to the head. And I remember Dana White came out, like, is he still the only actually active fighter from the very first Ultimate Fighter?
I think so.
He has to be.
I think so, yeah.
He has to. Right, so, I mean, that alone tells you how many years ago was that? You know what I mean? And yet he's still fighting, and he has 4 more fights left on his contract.
That was 2005, by the way.
2005, right? So, like, BJ Penn, right? Dana is calling for him to retire. Tyron Woodley, Dana is calling for him to retire. Who else recently he just called to Cowboy?
Donald Cerrone,
yeah. Why are we doing this about Diego Sanchez? Like, this fella's gonna end up like being badly damaged, and his shelf life after his career, when he does finally hang it up, probably won't even be that long. God, I hope it is. But, like, you have to see what I'm saying. Like, these brain injuries are going to come back on him. And something's going to happen before before it's too late. Like, you know, I don't know. I think he shouldn't get another fight after tonight. I don't even think he should be fighting tonight.
To be honest, when it comes to Sanchez, I'm just looking at his record now, and The last fighter that he beat of note, really, maybe say Jim Miller back in 2016. After that, he's got wins against Martin Held, Craig White, Mickey Gall, and Michelle Pereira. And obviously, he didn't really beat Michelle Pereira, but it doesn't take much to get a win over Mickey Gall. But even some of the other fighters as well. Like, at what point do we sit here and go, even if he doesn't look weathered, like, it's just that's it now. Like, it's 2005 was when he won tough. Like, that's 15 years ago now. If like a fighter could come into the UFC and retire within 10 years, but Diego Sanchez is still here and still fighting on pay-per-view cards after 15 years. And I just think, regardless of tonight's, go on.
No, but like, I'm asking you, like, for what purpose is he still fighting? Like,
Exactly.
Is it financial? Because if that's the case, I kind of get it then. Like, fine, like, you need to make a living. But surely I would have thought Diego Sanchez would have had enough racked up in the bank to call it a day by now.
You'd imagine so.
Manager's taking 60-70% at a time.
Maybe. You know what I mean? Especially if this fucking idiot is taking double cuts off him. You know what I mean? As his
Maybe that's why the McGregor fight's been lined up.
It shouldn't happen.
Can I just say, if and it's a big if, and I don't think it will happen because we saw what Dana said about it before, but if somehow those Conor and Diego make it to the cage and Diego's got that fucking muppet in his corner, he's getting slept quicker than Conor slept Aldo.
Like that, could you imagine the build up to that if there was like fans back in the press conferences and stuff?
Yeah.
Back and forth would be hilarious. You know what I mean? But like that fight was supposed to happen before Diego Brandao from McGregor. That was supposed to happen because like Sanchez just called him out religiously, and that was around the time Sanchez fought Gilbert Melendez, I think, probably a bit before it, actually. But I remember thinking that was the last time I've been genuinely excited by a Diego Sanchez fight. That was a war, that one. And since then I haven't really. I never took to it.
It's one of those fighters now. You look through a card, like Diego Sanchez. Don't really want to watch that one, but
I feel like I know what's going to happen.
Yeah, especially against like Jake Matthews. I mean, like Jake Matthews has been in UFC for a long time now himself as well, but he's also known for being so durable and he can take a shot and he can, he's been in a lot of good fights as well. But despite maybe how bad Jake Matthews has been, I think that fight only goes one way, and I don't want to see Diego Sanchez's own personal well-being. If I sack off this guru guy that he's got and I'm in his place, I ain't letting him go anywhere near Conor McGregor, retired or not a chance, because you just don't want to tarnish anything that he's built over.
Well, if this dude's a life coach, surely his life coach is telling him you don't go against the bleeding hardest hitter in two weight classes. You know what I mean? Featherweight and lightweight. You don't go near him.
Yeah, but you say that, but this is the same bloke who just went for Matt Serra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It almost seems like this life coach needs a life coach.
I feel like he wants to be the star of the show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he absolutely does.
You as Diego Sanchez. I feel like Diego Sanchez was in a place where, this Joshua Fabia kid could come in and take advantage of the vulnerable state that Sanchez was in, and yet it was the perfect time for him to kind of make a little show of himself. He wanted to be the little star of it. He wanted people talking about him. When was the last time we talked this much about a coach?
Yeah,
Edmund Tarverdyan.
Yeah,
maybe
Probably
Mark Montoya, maybe.
Who?
Or even Mike Perry's fiance.
I don't even as surprised as that was. I don't even think we gave it that much attention compared.
No, we probably didn't. No.
I think also that this Josh Fabia guy, he's in every single interview Diego Sanchez does. You don't see John Kavanagh, you don't see Eugene Berman, you don't see the guys at AKA jumping in and sitting next to DC McGregor or Israel Adesanya, almost demanding the interview. I think the only one almost is doing it at the moment is the I don't know his name. Is it Eric who's with Paulo Costa this week?
I think you're on about Wally. the
Yeah,
bold
Wiley.
guy who is just an absolute nut job.
No, his other guy that is coming with the
George
glasses.
fella with the glasses.
Yes, he seems to be
yeah.
a little bit more prevalent these days,
The
especially
mink coats.
from Henry Cejudo. Yes, he is coming in. So I think he's the only one that's comparable. But I think, could you imagine like the uproar if we get McGregor Diego Sanchez in the main event? It's true what Dana White says. You can't make that fight because one, it's not fair on Diego Sanchez, and two, you can't put it on anywhere. You can't make it a main card opener because it's McGregor.
But the thing is, like, the super problem with that is that if you made that fight, it
sells out.
It'll still do $1 million.
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? Like when Conor went in against Cowboy, I think all deep down we knew what was going to happen. Maybe not to the extent that it did happen. Maybe we thought in first round knockout, maybe, but 40 seconds was incredible and Conor put on a hell of a performance. But when that fight was scheduled, we were like, I don't know if it's the same for you two, but now and again there would be a little bit in my mind. It was like, what if Cowboy head kicks Conor?
Yeah,
because it could happen because he's done it loads of times before. Like, what if Cowboy does to Conor what he did to Matt Brown? It's quite easily, but if you put Conor in Diego Sanchez, there's nothing in my mind. There's not one scenario where I go, what if that happens? The only thing I go is, what if Conor knocks him out in 10 seconds, 20 or 30?
Or knees him when he's downed.
The only way that could happen is if, like, McGregor just didn't give a shit all training camp. He walked in, he had zero respect, hands down, and just closed his eyes for 20 seconds and got KO'd.
I think he'd still win.
Maybe, like, but no, it should not happen. I'm actually surprised Conor pushed for that himself.
He probably just wanted to fight because obviously Gaethje was getting booked up with Ferguson, I think, and obviously he wanted that free fight thing. So he probably like, oh, maybe it's an option. Obviously he was throwing out the likes of Anderson Silva at middleweight. The Anthony Pettis fight was looked at this year. It seems like McGregor, and obviously it looks like when you get him versus Pacquiao, and I think that's probably the most likely option because of the fact that he's been so vocal in terms of he's going to UFC and going, I want to fight. But obviously they can't let him fight because the amount of money he brings in. So I feel a bit sorry for him this year because he came out and said he wanted a free fight year, but it's not happened because of the COVID situation. I think we probably see him box next, but yeah, I'd rather him fight Mayweather 2, 3, 4 times before a Diego Sanchez fight.
I get what you mean, and
yeah.
I love Conor. I've got canvases on the wall of Conor McGregor, but I don't feel sorry for Conor McGregor. Like when he's sitting on,
obviously,
yeah,
200,
like
400 mil. It's a bit easy.
like he wanted to fight 3 times.
Tears, which are money.
Yeah, exactly. Like he wanted to fight 3 times. Well, it didn't happen. Life's a bitch. Get on with it. Like, it's what it is.
50 million or something last year.
Exactly. Like you look at you look at his whiskey, for example, and I'm not doing anything here, but it sold out so quickly. Do you know what I mean? And the money he made from that was just ridiculous. So, he's retired, if you believe it or whatever. He comes back and fights Pacquiao, which
we'll talk about that more in depth on the podcast. But
yeah. But that Pacquiao fight, if it happens, brilliant. It's at the end of the day, I think, despite how we all feel about Diego Sanchez, we all want to see Conor fight. So if it is against Diego Sanchez, we'll all tune in and watch it. Like, for example, all these rumors about Logan Paul and Floyd Mayweather. Should it happen? Absolutely not. Do I want to watch it? For once, I actually do want to watch this because I want to see Floyd Mayweather batter the shit out of Logan Paul. But a lot of the times, a lot of these fights, I just don't want to see it. And I don't really want to see Conor versus Diego. I don't really want to see Conor versus Pacquiao, to be honest. Yeah. But I'll watch it. Of course I will, because it's a Conor McGregor fight. Everyone watches Conor McGregor fights. Everyone watches Jon Jones' fights. Do you know what I mean? Where Diego Sanchez now is just, it doesn't do anything for Conor.
The question then, do you think he fights in MMA again?
Yeah.
Because if he fights Pacquiao, probably won't make 100 million, but he'll make very close to it.
If Khabib wins, he comes back.
I think that, yeah.
I'd rather see him fight Gaethje before he fights Khabib. Gaethje.
Me too, probably.
Gaethje, Ferguson, or Poirier. One of them before Khabib is enough.
But that's the thing. That's the beauty about Conor McGregor, is that obviously we can discuss him for hours. But you look in a lightweight, he's only fought Eddie Alvarez and Khabib. Obviously, he fought Dustin, but that was at 45.
Yeah.
And, Conor matches up well against a lot of that elite at 55, apart from Khabib. I think he beats everybody else in that top 5, apart from Khabib. But I do think he can beat Khabib. And I think, in answering your question, the personal hatred he has for Khabib, I just think that if that fight ever comes available, obviously we don't know how many fights Khabib's got left. Look, this is all irrelevant because I personally think that Gaethje beats Khabib.
So do I.
So this could be all irrelevant because you're not going to do Conor versus Khabib for not for a belt, are you? There's going to have to be some form of a belt there. So if Khabib loses, I don't think we'll ever see Conor Khabib again. But I do want to see that again.
Like, personally, I don't think that loss means as much to him. Like, like you said, if Khabib loses, he won't give a shit about that loss.
No.
Like, I'm sure part of it, like, it'll bother him, and Khabib has won over him. But he's the next man in for that title. So he won't care. If he goes in and becomes a 2-time lightweight champion, a featherweight champion, a 2-weight champion in Cage Warriors, like, you just bow out then, wouldn't you? Like,
zero defenses. That's some resume, isn't it?
He could have like 5 world titles. Don't forget an interim featherweight title, featherweight champion, potentially a 2-time lightweight champion, Cage Warriors, lightweight and featherweight, and and not one title defense.
It's mad, isn't it?
It doesn't matter. He still has to win them fights to become the champion.
I guess you compare it a little bit to like Holly Holm, and also like Yoel Romero. The pair of them somehow always end up in a title fight, and that's like I guess it's different with Conor because Conor, still is at the elite, he still is at the top. But
he's never looked like he's been in decline.
No, absolutely not. And as you said, and you spot on, Conor knows sitting there on his £250 million yacht, whatever, that he's next for a title. He knows that. He absolutely, and he's sitting there in his Gucci sliders. He knows that. He knows that he can just sit there and he will just get called in. And he knows that there's also money fights there as well. Say again?
What did you think of the USADA thing? Remember when he put out the tweet that USADA showed up, this, that, and the other? Like, he has to report that his location in order for them to show up. And
that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing with his retirement is that he can sit there all he wants until he's retired. But like we saw with DC, if you're retired, get your ass out of the USADA testing pool. He hasn't done that yet, and it's January this year. We thought it's been 8 months now.
Has DC done that?
DC's done that now, yeah.
Yeah.
DC's done that now. She's officially out. Right. As soon as you leave that pool, you're retired. But he's never left that, even during his 3 retirements beforehand. He's never left that testing pool. So deep down, he knows he isn't retired. But I think, and this is where we don't ever get this too often, but with someone like Conor wants that door left open, and no one's going to tell him otherwise that you can't have that door open. No one's going to shut that door on Conor McGregor. Because at any moment, Conor could just come back and you instantly sell out a gate.
Like,
it's as simple as that.
Did you not? I don't know how you took up the text that you released, but every time Dana texted him back, it was like, "Yeah, we'll do everything we can for you. Don't worry about it." And all, like, it was real. Like, Dana just, when he says jump, Dana jumps.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It was very. That kind of showed who rules what.
Oh yeah, it's definitely Conor. Conor's the boss in that relationship. He wears the trousers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's almost. I think we do probably see McGregor fighting MMA again. I think if Khabib wins next year when we've got fans back, it's an easy money fight for Khabib McGregor 2 for the light heavyweight or for the lightweight title. Sorry, not light heavyweight. They're not going to add £50 each. Although that would make it more interesting. But for the lightweight title, can you imagine that first? If it's your first 2 or 3 pay-per-views of the year with fans back, you do it at Vegas or you do it in Moscow. You can either do it in Dublin. It's probably be more Moscow because Khabib would be the champ. But that's doing 2 million pay-per-view buys. I don't know if it still has the same amount of hatred and bad blood between as the first one. Maybe Conor wants to get back the little brawl after 229. But I think those two, it'll be a bit more respectful, especially if Conor's coming in clean and full fighted. But I'd also we saw it on Monday. Dana came out and said he's got some boxing plans coming out in the next couple of weeks. And then Friday, McGregor's gone out, right, I'm going back to boxing. We've seen him in a training, in the boxing ring training. I wonder if those two are putting the deal together where we're launching super boxing. The first card's gonna be Pacquiao, and it's gonna be for the super middleweight champion, and then you got inaugural Zuther champion there.
Well, look at it this way, right? Dana White's been trying to launch this now ever since the Mayweather McGregor fight. That was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. His biggest cash cow is Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor's partnership in terms of his management has now recruited Manny Pacquiao. It's the easiest fight to make. There's hundreds of millions that you'll probably earn from it. I'm sure Pacquiao will get the significant portion, maybe because of, well, he should be. He's the fucking boxer in this thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just the easiest fight to make, and in that way you can you start it off a big fight, like you said. Probably put a little title on the line. I don't know how it's gonna be. I don't know under what like
it's not gonna be an exhibition bout, is it? Like the Roy Jones and Mike Tyson sort of stuff is going about. It's gonna be a proper 12-round slugfest, isn't it?
Well, who's going to be the governing body? Do you know what I mean? Like, is it going to be the WBC, WBO, whatever? Like,
I think the WBC would probably be the way you'd go with that, because we saw that with the Conor versus Floyd one. You had that special WBC, green and gold belt. It's such an iconic belt across all combat sports. It's one of the most iconic belts. Every boxer wants to win a WBC belt, so I think you definitely do go that route. As I said before, I don't really want to fight, but of course I'll watch it because I'm a whore for shit like this. I'll just watch. I think we spoke about it. I can't remember who it was we spoke about before. And I sat here on one of these videos abruptly, and Mitch asked me, and I said no. Oh, but I'll watch it though.
I remember.
Yeah.
No,
I can't remember who it was. I can't remember who it was, but I'll definitely watch it.
It wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't. Diaz, no, it wasn't amazing long ago. No.
Wasn't Diaz Masvidal, was it?
No. It was. I think was it MMA versus. Was it MMA versus a boxer, or was it two boxers or something?
Oh, maybe. Yes, it might have been Nunes versus Clarissa Shields or something like that.
No, because that's one I am down to say. I'll have. That's one of the few where I do actually want to see that. But there was a fight that you campaigned, and I just
UFC versus Bellator, no?
No, I don't think it was. No, I'm gonna have to go back after this finished and find it. But it was I instantly shut you down and said no. But I will watch it, and it's the same with this. I don't really want it, but of course I'll watch it.
Oh no, you had mentioned something about Jake Paul. I think.
Was it Jake Paul? Was it?
Yeah, because Mitch had mentioned something about Jake Paul.
Yeah, it might have been. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But who was Jake Paul going after in MMA?
Dylan Dennis.
No, because I'd want to watch that. I'd want to watch that.
It's happening. He's apparently meant to be boxing Ryan Garcia, which is going to go.
Like how good would it be to see Jake Paul's knee get ripped out by Dylan Dennis?
In the first row, me, you, Mitch, the whole latest team lined up. Just sitting there with big grins on our face, because it would be one hell of a spectacle. That would. Beautiful, that would be.
Money well spent, I tell you.
Oh, yeah, beautiful. Yeah.
Well,
absolutely incredible.
But we'll go from one spectacle to another. UFC 233 tonight. I think that's a good place to leave that on. I'm sure we'll be back for the podcast tomorrow, where we will be talking more in depth about McGregor and his endeavours into boxing, perhaps. But I think it's been a great chat, isn't it? I think we're a little way into the early prelims now. I think the prelims start in about 15 minutes. But Adesanya, Costa, 1-0's got to go. Imagine if they draw after all that promotion, and neither of them lose their O's.
I'm going to get a rematch that way, then, don't we?
But no,
see all this again.
Yes.
I think I need honestly an hour or two sleep. My eyes have been shutting this whole video.
Just like Paulo Costa's will be in about a couple of hours.
That's yeah. I like that.
That one.
Definitely. Make sure to give the guys a follow. JFarrell_1 on Twitter and Reese Man UFC. You'll see us probably complaining about Sancho not signing, a lot of MMA and a lot of United losing and winning after full time on there. But make sure to give them a follow, of course. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the.
Can I just quickly interrupt? Sorry, I've just been looking where you're doing your outro. It was Mike Tyson versus Jon Jones.
Yeah,
that was what it was. Sorry. You can. I don't know if you want to restart that, but I just wanted to point that out.
I was also very impressed that he knew my Twitter handle and I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I memorize it now. But yes, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 10k. We should be getting there hopefully before the end of the UFC 254. But make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you're on the Facebook channel, of course, look in the description box. The link to the YouTube channel is there as well. Make sure to jump over there, hit subscribe on there as well. And we'll see you guys tomorrow for the recap. We're gonna be changing up a little bit. It's gonna be more of the podcast style. But we'll see you guys on the next video.